Happy New Year. Yes, today is January 1st, 2025. It is 6:05 a.m. And wow, it is going to be a great one. I just feel it. I just know we are so back. January 2025, we are going to thrive in 2025 as Americans, as Illinoisans. I have a very special show planned for you today. We're going to get into some of the new laws that are taking effect here in January 1st today. There are a few laws that are taking effect in Illinois, and I'm going to be getting to those. But first, the lesson here, folks, is that the people are always in charge. Yes. So I woke up to this news and I knew that they had probably were going to change this, the masking requirement, OSF Healthcare. Okay. They briefly set a mask mandate to go into effect yesterday, December 31st. And they've already changed it. Their policy is now making it voluntary or recommended, which is what masking should always be. It should always be recommended. Because number one, I can't say it enough. It doesn't work. It's not a preventative measure. I'm sorry, but yesterday on the show, I talked about how when I see somebody with a mask, what that tells me is that it was a last ditch effort for you to prevent illness or to prevent others from getting sick. There's a lot of internal preventative things that you can do, like taking a supplement, making sure you're eating right, exercising, sleep. And even then, even if you take all of those preventative steps and measures, you still might get sick. And then there's even a further step of preventing yourself from getting others sick, just staying home, until you feel better. I mean, that's what the doctors always told me growing up. And then it shifted into this whole like masking thing, even though you don't feel anything and mask just because it makes you feel better. It's all about the feels and it's not the reals. So if it makes you feel better to wear the mask, then go ahead, wear the mask. I really don't care. But you're not going to force people into wearing this mask when we all know that it doesn't do anything to prevent yourself from getting sick or to prevent others from getting sick. We know that this physical barrier is arguably probably worse for you to wear when you're sick rather than better for you to wear when you're sick or helpful to wear when you're sick. So they've changed their policy, OSF Healthcare. They quickly changed it and made it voluntary. So this is a lesson here, folks. We are in charge. The organization got tremendous blowback here, and they responded accordingly. So I go, man, I sure hope the American people aren't duped into this masking mandate again. It's very clear what's going on. They're hyping up the hysteria, and perhaps you're scared because you get sick and you're like, oh man, I don't know. I've never felt this sick before. Relax and do what we've been doing for the last, I've been alive 25 years. I'm going to do what I was doing before I turned 20 in 2020, before I turned 20. I'm going to take a listen to the health experts that, weren't corrupted by the political science. So that was huge this morning. When I woke up, I was like, wow, good on the OSF healthcare system. Briefly setting that mask mandate. Now they've changed their policy and they've made it voluntary. So like I said, it was, and here's what it is. All employees, patients, visitors at our hospitals are going to be required to wear a mask due to widespread respiratory illness. We know it's not preventative for respiratory illness like influenza, COVID, RSV, all of that. The masking is not a preventative measure. What's really a preventative measure, and what I wish more healthcare experts and people in the healthcare system would be talking about things like an antiviral. As soon as you get kind of those sniffles, talk to your doctor about ivermectin, try to get a prescription, get it filled. Or maybe talk about vitamin D, talk about some steps you can do, make yourself a good soup. There's so many healing properties in food because there's so many vitamins in food. anymore. Their answer is this last ditch effort that isn't really all that effective in preventing illness at all. So that's what they're doing. They're requiring everybody in the hospital, patients, visitors, employees, to wear a mask. Now they've changed that. They said, due to widespread respiratory illnesses, we are recommending rather than requiring that patients and visitors that help protect All right. All right, go ahead and smash that like button. I think that we are back. Testing, testing. Yes. For some odd reason, that was had some technical issues. New year, new laws, things that you need to know if you live in Illinois. We're going to be back talking a little bit about the new laws that are going to be affecting you here in the state of Illinois. They take effect January 1st, 2025. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about the e-cigarettes. And how they are, placing more mandates on these e-cigarette companies. Another law that prohibits electronic cigarettes purchased by mail, online, or through remote sale. So it prohibits electronic cigarettes from being purchased on by mail, online, or through remote sale methods. And it prohibits anyone being shipped e-cigarettes who are not like a distributor or retailer of e-cigarettes. So this is, kind of tough for vaping industry to make it here in the state of Illinois. And like I said, I am not somebody who advocates for e-cigarettes or vaping or anything like that. But I will say that e-cigarettes helped me and many other people to quit smoking, actually. And it's obvious that Big Pharma probably wants to eliminate this competitor, e-cigarettes, because Big Pharma wants to get you on this expensive drug and get you to quit smoking, and then they want to get you hooked on their drug instead of e-cigarettes. Okay, so likely that's why there's this attack or this assault, and not to mention, it's Medicaid. It's going to cost the taxpayers money because you could get Illinoisans back to regular combustible cigarettes, leaving taxpayers to pick up the tab because taxpayers unfortunately also suffer in addition to consumers. The annual Medicaid cost for smoking-related illnesses in Illinois is about $2 billion, which is the highest throughout the country. So yeah, the smoking is a big one here in the state of Illinois, and a lot of people smoke, and it's a strain on our Medicaid system. And of course, if it's a strain on our Medicaid system and people on Medicaid are seeking help due to smoking related incident or illnesses, then you've got the taxpayers picking up the tab. So all around, just kind of like a law that's it's just annoying. It's one of these laws where I'm just like so annoyed because it's clear that the Democrats, they don't care about the kids. They care about obviously big pharma's pockets and taxing people for these Medicaid related illnesses. It's all a money scheme. And I love how Democrats say that they're all about the children and they want to make sure the children are safe. But yet, in the same breath, they'll say that the kids are old enough to make these life-altering decisions like chopping your wee-wee off or getting an abortion. Okay, they're old enough for that, but they're not old enough, of course, to smoke, nicotine out of a vape. Hey, good morning. I'm Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook. You guys can find me there. Before I took the break, I was telling you about these new laws that are taking effect today, January 1st, 2025. Happy New Year to you. Text me, let me know what your New Year plans are. I think we're going to have some prime rib today, and I'm so excited for that. I love prime rib. I am a big steak gal. I love steaks. I love hamburgers. Big red meat girl. But before I took the break, I was telling you about e-cigarettes and some new laws that are going to be taking effect today, January 1st, 2025. One law, it's going to prohibit these tobacco companies, people who sell e-cigarettes, from I guess disguising e-cigarettes, which I've never seen anything that looks like a pencil sharpener. I don't know if these exist, and if they do, kids are very resourceful, and if they are doing that, it's not like the best business practice. And if they are doing that, then I say just let the free market be the free market and blast that out that they're doing that and they're disguising these vapes as school supplies. People will boycott people, and then that company will just fizzle out. But you've got Democrats who say, oh, we need to ban these things, and they ban the e-cigarettes that look like highlighters, erasers, pencil sharpeners. I've never really seen that, but maybe kids are getting resourceful and they're getting their hands on these vapes that look like other products other than a tobacco product. I'm not for really deceptive advertising or marketing, much like the NCAA. They're saying, "Oh yeah, it's women's sports, it's women's sports," but yet we're going to have a man perform in women's sports. That's very deceptive advertising and marketing. If you're calling it women's sports, then it's got to be women's sports. If you are making a tobacco product, then it's got to be a tobacco product. I'm not too outraged about that one. I'm a little upset about this one where the law prohibits electronic cigarettes being purchased on mail or by mail online or through other remote sales. That's kind of silly. You can put safeguards in place to ensure kids are not getting it. Actually, the company should be, ensuring that they're asking for the license or an ID to prove that prove that the person purchasing the e-cigarette is actually 21 years old. And if they're not doing that, then there's already laws on the books. You can't give somebody e-cigarettes if they're not 21. So if this is happening, then we should just prosecute the people who are breaking the law, and that's the problem out of the state house. And that's the problem with a lot of these Illinois legislators. They come up with all these different ways and different mandates and requirements, but it's like, hold on, folks, if we just applied the law, if we just enforced the law the way it's written, we wouldn't have these problems. So I like what Elizabeth Hicks here, she's from the Consumer Choice Center, and she said the assault on vaping may actually push some Illinoisans back to combustible cigarettes. Now, and this is the case for me and many others like me. I used to smoke a few years, and I quit by using e-cigarettes. That's really what got me off. I switched to e-cigarettes, and then I got off the real combustible cigarettes. And I think largely everybody can agree that e-cigarettes are slightly better than the combustible ones. But you're going to get a ton of Illinoisans who are going to be in the hospital for smoking related illnesses. And I'm not saying that there's not illnesses related to e-cigarettes. There's plenty. I think it's called popcorn lung or something like that. You can get all kinds of illnesses from e-cigarettes, but it's not as much as the smoking related illnesses. And I think we can all agree that e-cigarettes are slightly better than the combustible ones. But the annual Medicaid cost for smoking related illnesses in Illinois is over $2 billion, which is one of the highest throughout the country. So there's lots of smokers here in Illinois. And I say that e-cigarettes actually help people get off cigarettes. And I think that e-cigarettes are, not awesome, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. But Big Pharma would probably disagree with me. They hate the vaping industry. They hate e-cigarettes. They're not a fan because guess what? E-cigarettes have helped me and several other people get off cigarettes, and I quit smoking because of e-cigarettes. And obviously Big Pharma wants you on a drug to get you addicted to a drug that doesn't really work, and you're going to have to take it all the time. And they want you hooked on that drug instead of using e-cigarettes, and they want you to become a Big Pharma patient. And I love how the Democrats are always saying, oh, we care about the kids, we care about the kids. But yet they're totally fine with kids, 12-year-olds, going in and getting an abortion without parental consent, a late-term abortion without parental consent. You can be 12 years old in the state of Illinois, get a late-term abortion, and you don't have to inform the parents at all. You could go get yourself a gender transitioning surgery on taxpayer dime if you're a kid. And when it comes to all that stuff, oh, they're old enough and they can make their own decisions and they need their bodily autonomy. Oh, but they can't make decisions around vaping e-cigarettes. I just don't understand that logic at all. You can't say it's about the kids. Come on, just be honest with me, Democrats. Tell me what it's really about. It's about Big Pharma. It's about lining their pockets. All right, I want to switch gears. We're going to talk about another new law taking effect January 1st. According to the Center Square, a new law taking effect January 1st gives the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, IEMA, more authority. Don't you love it when your legislators, the people you elect to represent you, and you elect to go craft laws and ensure that everything runs smoothly in the state, they just pass off their job and they vote to pass off their job to state agency and bureaucrats. Yeah. Senate Bill 3434 amended the Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act, authorizing IEMA and the agency's Office of Homeland Security to adopt rules for the implementation of their state-funded grant programs. Okay, so the bill's sponsor, State Senator Selena Villanueva, she's a Democrat from Chicago, said the intention was to give IEMA the authority to move more swiftly. Relax, it's just about convenience. It's just about clarifying the law. Here she is. She's quoted in the Center Square. She says, we're just trying to clarify some things in the law because currently, particularly with grant making that they have, some grants are given rulemaking authority, others don't. And it kind of leads to confusion. So we're just clarifying. We're just trying to create clarity. Don't you love it when the Democrats do this? They're always like, oh, we're just doing this because we want to clear things up. No, what you're doing is you're actually taking and stripping the voices of the citizenry away. You're taking away their representation and you're giving it to a bureaucrat in IEMA. And really, it should be up to the legislators to decide where those grant funds go. But you've got IEMA now who will decide, where emergency grants will go and to what communities, if they're devastated by a natural disaster like a tornado, they're going to have more authority over where that money goes. And really what it should be up to the people you elect, not these bureaucrats who are selected and nominated and handpicked by Governor J.B. Pritzker. It's a dictatorship. So Democrats, they always do this sneaky thing where they're like, oh, we're going to clarify the existing law, and it winds up taking away citizens' voices and their representation. Opponents said that the measure allows Illinois emergency authorities, the Illinois Emergency Authority, to have more power while lacking proper transparency and oversight. Here's Win Stoller. He's a Republican. He says, quote, "This, to me, feels like a power grab by the executive branch and our governor. Who is like this, like so close? They are just best pals, Aima and the governor." Okay. Governor J.B. Pritzker has declared emergency after emergency after emergency. I don't think we're under a emergency right now, but for the last like 5 years, the entire time that I've kind of been graduated from from college, I'm 25. So back when I was 20, this is when it all kind of started with Governor J.B. Pritzker declaring emergency after emergency. 3 years we were under emergency authority, or under the emergency authority, and special powers were given to Governor J.B. Pritzker because of COVID, and then an additional 2 years governing under these emergency powers because of the asylum seekers. So that's 5 years we've been under emergency declarations, and they're supposed to be short-term in nature because it gives all kinds of power to the governor. Here's what Win Stoller says. He says, "It's the rule of our branch to step up and debate policy and adopt policy, and we're not just going to pass off our responsibility to the governor's bureaucracy." And that's what they said about Aima getting this additional rulemaking authority. They get to make rules about where the grants go, the emergency monies go when there's natural disasters or when there's emergencies, okay? So Stoller said that Pritzker has declared emergencies over the last 3 years for COVID, 2 years for asylum seekers. He said, under Governor J.B. Pritzker, for over the last 4 years, we've been continuously under disaster declarations. It's my opinion that the governor has been abusing his authority. Yes, Illinois Senate Bill 3434 taking effect today, January 1st. We're giving bureaucracy more power, and we're taking the representation out of it, where the representatives actually get up there, debate, what money goes where when disaster strikes. You've got Aima having all of the rulemaking authority over those grants. So it takes effect January 1st, like I said. He signed it into law, Governor J.B. Pritzker, in August. It was approved. The legislation was approved in May. The amended Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act is one of 293 new laws Illinois that is taking effect today, New Year's Day, January 1st. So I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bluing to normal. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about new laws taking effect today, January 1st, 2025. Happy New Year. Not so happy for parents because there's new laws that are impacting you. You got to educate yourself. Make sure that you know what laws are going into effect January 1st, 2025. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey there. Good morning, so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day, Monday through Friday. It's a daily show, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Happy New Year to you, Joe. He's got a comment here. Doge has a lot to do in D.C., hoping they eventually make it out to investigate corrupt states. Illinois would hopefully be first on the list. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. It'd be pretty awesome if we had like a Doge for the state of Illinois. There's things that I've seen come out of the state house and they're funding things, and I'm just like scratching my head. Why the hell would you put money towards that? One of them was actually like straight up, it's a actually I'm gonna get to it probably. It's a hair thing where like your DCFS is mandating that foster parents implement a hair care plan for their child or for the kid that they're fostering. And if that child is in the system, you have to implement a hair care plan. Now, ladies, I know that you know, and I know that you know, that hair care is very, very costly depending on what the kid wants. So this is where they put all of the decision-making power in the kids' hands, right? And, it became a race thing on the Senate floor. It became a race thing in the state house, where they were like, oh, well, their hair is their strength. Black hair is very hard to take care of, and it's very important that black hair is taken care of by your foster parents. This is just so silly because now you've passed on either that cost to the foster parents or you're passing that cost off to the taxpayer because, DCFS has to pay for these things. And the law talks about how, DCFS has to provide the resources and provide the training on how to properly understand the child's hair care plan. Look, when I was a kid, my dad would not let me go get, I really wanted to dye the tips of my hair like orange or something. And it's very costly. Like if you go dye your hair, you're looking at 100, $200 a pop. For a girl, for guys, it can get even really costly, 60, $70 a pop. And if DCFS is going to implement this mandate on foster parents that they have to provide this hair care plan, who's going to eat that cost? Is it going to be the foster care parent? No, DCFS is going to have to provide the resources according to this law. And it's going to get costly, folks, because of course, if DCFS is providing the resources, that means you and I are providing the resources for these kids to get, hair care. And where does it end? Hair care, is that waxing the kids' eyebrows? Is it waxing the lip? Is it, hair care? I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's what they're doing in the state of Illinois. So it'd be so great if we had like some sort of oversight, like a DOJ, to say, no, this is a waste of taxpayer dollars. We're not doing that. That's stupid. I'd love to see, or at least make a recommendation to cut silly things, right? Because you run into a problem if DOJ isn't going to operate this way. They're just going to craft up recommendations to the president. Hey, this is where we see the most government bloat. This is where we see the most problems arise. With the taxpayer dollars being spent and nothing's coming out of it. We should address it. And then they make recommendations to the president, and the president, goes from there and makes the necessary cuts, either via executive order, or they'll make recommendations to Congress, and Congress will go ahead and address those wasteful spending items or provisions within existing law. So it'd be great if Illinois had something like this. We kind of did, where the citizenry could actually go to a website and kind of air their grievances and say, hey, we don't want to pay for this. This seems like a waste of government, or a waste of taxpayer dollars. We had a place like that. They got rid of it, that website actually, and that whole committee. I think it was called the Illinois Ethics Committee, something like that. And you could actually go to a website and say, hey, I don't like that we're spending money. I don't like that we're spending money on people's Ozempic. So actually state employees, government employees for the state of Illinois, they get Ozempic included in their government healthcare plans. And I don't know about you, but that kind of pisses me off. And where does it end? Are we going to start paying for their boob jobs? Are we going to start paying for their Brazilian butt lifts? Like, I understand that you work for the state, but that's not my problem. And I don't really feel like paying for your Ozempic. Maybe you should stop shoving Doritos in your mouth. You know what I mean? So like, there's plenty of things that you could probably air your grievances about if we had like a DOJ or some sort of committee that took a look at wasteful government spending, like, I don't know, providing Ozempic to government employees of the state of Illinois. Woo! New year, new laws, new me. Good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning, Monday through Friday. I hope you had a great new year. What are your New Year's plans? 309-451-9299. Yesterday I asked you, what are some of your New Year's resolutions? My New Year's resolution is to get more involved in my local government. I do want to get more involved, start attending my local city council meetings. I recently moved just a few minutes away from Bloomington Normal to Lincoln. I'm going to start attending those city council meetings. And I also want to exercise a little bit more. I go to the gym probably about 3-4 times a week. I want to up it to about 5. I want to actually start running 10 miles a week. That's 2 miles a day, and over the course of 7 days, I'm kind of not as not as much running as I used to do, and I want to get back to that. And I'm starting out slow. 10 miles a week sounds pretty good to me. So that's my goal: is to just do 10 miles a week, exercise 5 times a day or 5 times a week, and then I do want to get more involved in my local government and more involved in, the city council meetings, the county board meetings. I'd like to start attending those. And you should too. You should do, because it's really important that you stay up to date with, things like what we're talking about today, new laws that take effect January 1st. That's today, 2025. Before I took the break, I said that we were going to get to some laws that affect parents. So if you're a parent, you're going to want to tune in here in just a couple of minutes, because I'm going to go through a couple of laws that are taking effect today, January 1st. Now, one is, man, I was just so bent up about this, because I know that you know somebody that this directly affects. Chances are that you know a drug addicted mother who's had their child taken away from them. So Senate Bill 3136 allows drug addicted mothers who give birth to babies whose toxicology screens come back positive, which is just so sad. And they get to maintain their parental rights. Now, as it was before today, as it was before, these women would have their parental rights taken away, and if their babies were born high. Okay, you're high, and your womb, the baby is in the womb and winds up getting high and is born high, and their toxicology report comes back positive for drugs. Okay, and you've got these drug addicted mothers losing their parental rights. That's not going to be the case anymore in Illinois. Drug addicted mama, is going to get to keep her baby. And opponents say that's dangerous. It subverts accountability, and I have to agree. I know several people in my life that this impacts, and it's really hard, because it's sad when people are drug addicted. But I will say, in every case that I know of, these drug addicted mothers who have these children, they are not in a space to be taking care of children, especially if their child winds up high and is born high, or born with a toxicology report that comes back positive. That baby needs to be taken away from you. And Senator Steve McClure, who's a Republican, he urged no on the Senate floor. He urged everybody to vote no. I'm going to be right back. We're going to talk about that bill. There's a few other bills that we're going to be talking about that pertain to parents. Some of them are just going to make you scratch your head, and you're going to be like, really? That's what our Illinois lawmakers are doing? We're electing them, and they're going and they're doing that? So we're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. I've done an entire show on the 14th Amendment. I'll have to do one of those again. Right now, off the top of my head, I can't think about. I do know that constitutionally, birthright citizenship is not. It's not constitutional, and Donald Trump is going to be looking at doing away with the birthright citizenship. And your gut tells you that that's not right, right? If people are just coming here and having what's called anchor babies, that's not right, because you're like literally having the child, and you're coming here to just have that child and try to anchor yourselves into some sort of citizenship with a baby, and you're using that child as a way to gain access to our country, and that's just amoral. It's wrong. And something in your gut just tells you birthright citizenship doesn't really sound right. Now, if I remember correctly, I'm going to have to look up the 14th Amendment and look up the birthright citizenship. This has been discussed by founders, scholars, and Donald Trump is finally going to address it. But from what I understand, the thing that should declare whether, or should be the deciding factor as to whether or not you should be a citizen, is if you have some sort of allegiance to the country. Now, if you have one parent who is, a citizen, um, and if you, yeah, or if you have two parents that are citizens, I'm not sure what it. I'll have to look it up. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but it's some sort of allegiance, something that keeps you here. Now, if you have, parents who are illegal immigrants, or parents who are from a different country, your allegiance could be to that country. Okay, so it's all about allegiance and what is making you stay here. Do you have something that makes you want to stay here in America and uh, pledge yourself to America? So we're going to be right back talking a little bit about more new laws that are passed, that were passed and that take effect January 1st, 2025. One law that we're going to get to is that Illinois Department of Children and Family Services law, the House Bill 5097. According to the Center Square, that bill provides caregivers with necessary training and resources to ensure kids receive culturally competent hair care. Yes, for some odd reason, this became a race thing. Like, white people have hair, black people have hair. I don't understand why black hair is different really than white hair. It's just all hair. Okay, it's an external factor that you can't really change. And I don't know why we've got Democrats wanting to force foster parents into this healthcare plan and force taxpayers to pay for this hair care plan. Okay, so Dave Syverson, he was urging a no vote on this one, House Bill 5097, in this hair care plan that you have to provide if you're a foster parent. He said, no, we shouldn't be teaching our kids in grade school that hair care plays, as the legislation puts it, an important role in a child's identity and self-worth. Yeah, I'm sorry, but your hair is, my mama always used to say, care about what's in your head than what's on it. And this legislation, crafted by Democrats, completely just throws that sentiment out the window. The kids are now going to be taught that your hair is more important than what's on the inside. External factors, external items like your clothing, your hair, your shoes, that is more important, and that plays a role in your identity. And the legislature is condoning that sort of thing. So that's wrong. We're going to get to that. Plus, oh gosh, we've got so many I got to get to. Senate Bill 3232, which requires hospitals to provide parents who relinquish a newborn infant, with contact information of the child welfare agency that received custody of that relinquished child, dropping your kid off at the fire station, right? There's a certain time period in which you can go pick up that kid. It's that 30-day window. Now they are applying that 30-day window to hospitals as well. I don't like it. It's terrible for adoptions and adoptive parents, adoption advocates. You give up your child, and I don't like this whole like takesies backsies thing. And I understand that it's a hard decision and to give up your child, but you did it. So you have to live with the consequences of your decisions. You just can't drop off your kid and leave and then come back and pick your kid up. That's just not after 30 days. Ooh, hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. New Year's top resolutions. Let me look at this. This is from YouGov poll, and they asked people what their top resolutions were for 2025. So here are some of the top resolutions. Saving more money. 26% of people in this survey said, yes, I want to save more money, improving my physical health, exercising more. That's part of, my 2024 resolution. I told you I want to exercise more. I also want to get more involved in my local government. That's not on here. Nobody wants to get more involved in politics, right? But being happy, eating healthier, losing weight, improving mental health, learning something new. I picked up crocheting this year, and I actually really love it. I am going to continue crocheting, and I hope that I can learn, there's like single stitch, double stitch, all of that. So I'm going to try to learn the double stitch and kind of enhance that skill a little bit more, learn a little bit, learn a little more, little bit more about that crocheting. Reading more, improving relationships with friends and family, spending more time with family, paying down debts. It's a big one. Focusing on spiritual matters. That's number 13, focusing on spiritual matters. Yeah, my relationship with God, number one, always focusing on that, right? Quitting a bad habit, traveling, pursuing a career goal, quitting a bad habit. Oh, I said quitting a bad habit, pursuing a career goal, getting a new job, spending more time with friends, pursuing a new hobby, and moving. People want to move. If you live in the state of Illinois, that's probably more likely than than any other resident of the United States. Most likely, you might be thinking about moving if you live in the state of Illinois. And it seems people are pretty confident in their ability to keep their resolutions this year. This poll found that 40% of them said that they're very likely. It was very likely that they're going to keep their resolution, and 50% said it's somewhat likely. So, are you going to keep your New Year's resolution? Clean slate, new goals, new you? Let me know. Let me know what your New Year's resolution is. I'm going to be right back at the top of the hour, at the 7 o'clock hour, with more new laws that take effect today, January 1st, 2025, new Illinois laws. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Woo! Welcome to the Red Kingdom. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk moving to normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day, Monday through Friday. It's a daily program, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now, before I took the break, I was telling you about new laws going into effect today, January 1st, 2025. Happy New Year. What are some of your resolutions? Text them in 309-451-9299. I'm live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Now, before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this law. It's Senate Bill 3136. And Senate Bill 3136, what it does, it's one of nearly 300 new laws taking effect January 1st today. That are impacting parents. Okay, there's a lot of parents. There's a handful of laws that are impacting parents out of the 300 new laws that are going into effect today. And this is one of them. Senate Bill 3136, according to the Center Square, allows drug addicted mothers who give birth to babies whose toxicology screens come back positive to maintain their parental rights. Opponents like Steve McClure, State Senator Steve McClure, they say that it's dangerous, it subverts accountability. He urged a no vote. He said these tools are not to punish mom, but these tools are in the best interest of the children. Okay, it's really tragic to see a child taken away from the baby's mother. Okay, it's always tragic to see, but it's in the best interest of the child. We have to start thinking about the child, and this punitive provision. Really, I mean, I guess it's punishment, but it's not really. It's really in the best interest of the child, and you're not punishing the mom. You're just trying to save the child from the drug-addicted mom, because drug-addicted moms, I don't know if you know this, aren't necessarily great parents. And I know that might be, harsh, but it's true. The punitive provision is to help mom and to motivate mom to get better. Hey, I want to have my children back. I'm going to get my child back by getting better and getting off the drugs. Proponents say the new law is actually going to incentivize drug addicted pregnant women to seek out prenatal care and treatment recovery programs. Okay. I mean, you can argue that all you want, but at the end of the day, you know, the keeping the child with somebody who's drug addicted is not going to be in the interest of the child. We are too focused on the interest of the mother, who's already made her decision, which is to be a drug addict. But we can still save the child. You know, her decisions might have compromised her health and have destroyed her health and destroyed her life. But her decisions shouldn't destroy the life of an innocent. And we should be more focused on crafting law that is in the best interest of the child. And I'm sorry, but you've made your choice. I'd love to, create laws to help these drug addicted women. But they already screwed up, right? And the law should really reflect, hey, what's in the best interest of the child? The person who's the most vulnerable, right? And the Democrats always say that we're pro the vulnerable communities, or we're all about the vulnerable communities. Okay, I couldn't think of anybody more vulnerable than a child who's born high or intoxicated, and you've just crafted a law that's going to probably cause way more harm than good, because you're going to have kids in the hands and in the care of people who can't even take care of themselves. Okay, so proponents say that the law is going to, because pregnant women will not reach out for prenatal care, knowing that their baby's probably intoxicated, knowing that they're intoxicated and that they are using drugs. They won't reach out and get prenatal care. They won't seek out recovery programs, because they don't want to risk having their prenatal or their parental rights taken away from them. So I don't know. I would hope that they take the necessary steps to ensure that that child isn't going to go right back into the hands of a crackhead. And then a newborn baby sober is hard to take care of. Could you imagine taking care of a newborn baby and you're cracked out, literally? Oh boy, another bill, another law going into effect today, January 1st, 2025. according to the Center Square, House Bill 5097, and I talked about this earlier on the stream. You guys can find me Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I'm there. We talked about this bill 5097. It requires the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services to provide caregivers with necessary training and resources. Resources means funds to ensure kids receive culturally competent hair care. What the hell is culturally competent hair care, you might ask? It's stupid. And for some odd reason, this became about race. Now, I don't know. I'm sure I'd have to look into the statistics, but there are a lot of Black children in DCFS care, and they're victims of fatherless homes. Really, that's what this is all about. But and it impacts the Black community for more, and they're in the foster care system. Some reason this became like a Black-white issue, like culturally competent hair. You have to ensure that Black kids have culturally competent hair, that their hair reflects their culture. I don't understand it. I really don't. Hair is hair. It's an external item on your head, just like your clothes, just like your shoes. And some Republicans say that that's going to get costly for foster parents. It's going to get costly for the taxpayers because obviously the state agency has to provide the training and resources, and the taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill, per usual here in the state of Illinois, as usual. They're going to have to foot the bill. And I don't know about you, but your kids might come to you and they want, I know when I was a kid, I was like, 12, 13 years old, and I wanted to get the dip dye. That was a big thing when I was a kid, was dip dye, where you dye the ends of your hair, and I wanted to go bright orange, right? That's what I wanted to dye my hair. And my dad was like, no, absolutely not. That's stupid. You're going to look dumb. And that's what parenting is. And I'm glad that he, stepped in and said, no, that's stupid. That's dumb, because it costed a ton, and he wasn't going to let me go get my hair dyed because it would have costed probably $200. That's how much it cost to get your hair done. You know that, ladies. And now we're going to have taxpayers paying that. And it's up to the parents. If the parents don't want them to have orange dip dyed hair, if the parents don't want them to have dreads or beads in their hair, then they shouldn't be forced to do that. They're foster parents. Let's give our foster parents, they've done great. They're doing the great work of taking care of children in the foster care system. Let's give them some slack here. Let's let's pull back on the reins a little bit here, and let's just give them an ability to parent the child a little bit. Parents know what kind of hairstyles their kid is supposed to have, and they'll be able to take care of the kid's hair. Okay. State Senator Dave Syverson said that he urged a no vote, and I love what he says about this. We're going to teach children in grade school that their hair care plays, as the legislation puts it, and this is quoting the legislation here, an important role in the child's identity and self-worth. Now, I don't know about you, but my mama, she always told me, care more about what's in your head than what's on it. She always told me that. And being taught that your self-worth is based on external items like your hair, clothes, and the right shoes is just creating these emotionally and mentally shallow children. Yes. They've got no depth to their personality because they've chalked up their personality to this hair or to the shoes that they wear or to the clothes. And he goes, it's no wonder why so many children are suffering from low self-esteem, depression, and feeling of self-worth. I couldn't have put it any better, Dave. Dave Syverson quoted in the Center Square. You guys can check out the article on thecentersquare.com. Proponents of the bill, Senate Majority Leader Kimberly Lightford, she's a Democrat, and she said children in the system could perceive their hair as their strength. I literally, it sends a tingle up my spine because there's a saying. It's on, on pretty much every wall in my house, I feel, but I've got a lot of decor that says, the Lord is my strength. The Lord is my strength. That's a saying that, Christians say. And to have somebody out there saying that kids perceive their hair as their strength, that's troubling. That's really, really troubling. The fact that your hair, say you get cancer, it goes. Okay, you go through chemotherapy. It's just hair. Yeah, okay, it's literally an external item, that, much like your shoes and your jacket. I mean, it's just so silly. Another law impacting parents taking effect today, January 1st, 2025. That's what we're doing here on Conservative Cat. We're going over new laws that take effect today, January 1st, 2025. House Bill 4271 allows children 17 years of age and older to donate blood without permission or authorization from their parents. This is just silly. Now, me personally, I've never donated blood. I applaud anybody who donates blood. I personally will not donate blood. I just am freaked out by it. I don't want the needles near me. I don't want blood extracted from my body, and I don't want it to go in a bag for somebody to take. I'm sorry. I mean, I know that it's really something that is totally it's so good that there's people out there who will do it. I just can't. I really can't. I'll throw up. I will. And that's my decision. That's my choice. Democrats are always saying, my body, my choice. That's my choice. I just can't do it. I applaud anybody who does. And I understand the definite urgency to get people to donate blood. However, we cannot go around parents and parental authority. I'm sorry, but this is just a recipe for disaster. You've got kids donating blood without parental permission. What happens if something goes wrong? Okay, the odd chance that something goes wrong, the kid passes out, 17 years old, the parent has no idea that the kid is, passed out somewhere. And, I just don't like this. I don't like this whole, the age of adulthood is 18. Okay, if you want to move that age back, then you're going to have to do that legislatively. But we're not going to craft laws that make them into adults before they reach the age of 18. Okay, and I don't care if it's 17, it's 1 year difference. If you want to make them into an adult earlier, that's fine. Then do it. Make them into adults at the age of 16. Do it legislatively and consider it. But then you also have to allow them to smoke cigarettes, allow them to drink alcohol at an earlier age if you're going to make them into adults at the age of 16, if you're going to make them into adults at the age of 17, then you've got to roll back all those laws. So I really don't like this whole subverting the authority of the parents. 17 years of age and you're out there donating blood, and this is a medical procedure. It is. People are extracting bodily fluids from you, and it is a big deal. And parents should be the ones who are the ones who provide permission for minors 17 years of age. So parental consent used to be required for donors 17 years of age because they weren't adults. No legislators voted against the measure. So that was kind of disturbing. There were a lot of Republicans who they just never voted. They didn't have a position on it one way or another. If I was in the state house, I would vote no. I know that giving blood is a very important thing. I've never done it. I'm afraid, quite frankly. But nothing surpasses, or nothing should be placed in of a higher importance than that parent having control over their minor's decisions and knowing where their minor is at all times. So I got to take a quick break. But when we come back, I'm going to discuss more laws that are taking effect here January 1st, today, 2025. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So many new laws to get to. What do you think? I maybe I'm a terrible person for not donating blood. People always make me feel really bad about it, and I'm also not an organ donor. I just don't hold those beliefs that I would want. I have this, I know it's an irrational fear where somebody's going to harvest my organs prior to me dying, right? Or like I'm going to be pretty far along in my be close to death, but they're just going to speed up the process and just take out my organs. I know that sounds deranged and crazy, but it's my personal belief, and I have no issues with organ donors. I've got no issues with people who donate their blood. I think it's something to be applauded. However, you can't go, because this is a slippery slope. What's next without parents' permission? We already allow kids to get abortions without their parents' permission at the age of 12. We already allow kids to go get gender affirming care, to mutilate their genitals without parental permission. What's next, though? I mean, really, it doesn't make any sense. You've got Tylenol, you've got, you got to go get your parents' permission to go get a Tylenol down from the office, okay? A little painkiller from your principal, okay, when you're in school. So I don't understand this whole like, oh, let's go give them, all of the body autonomy. It's your body, your choice at the age of 17, 12, whatever the case may be. I don't like any of it. But I'm not shocked. And it kind of like, at least we're being consistent. If we're allowing kids to get abortions at the age of 12, and we're not allowing them to go give blood at the age of 17, perhaps we should, have some parity here, some equity in the law, equality in the law, because that makes no sense. If you can go get an abortion, which is a dangerous procedure, a medical procedure, then you should definitely go get this lower medical procedure, or this lower risk procedure, medical procedure done at the age of 17. If you can go get it done, an abortion done at the age of 12. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about Senate Bill 3232, which requires hospitals to provide parents who relinquish a newborn infant. So if you drop your child off if you're a brand new newborn infant and you leave your child at the hospital, now, these hospitals are going to be required to provide contact information to that parent who relinquished their child. They provide the contact information of the child welfare agency that received custody of that relinquished child. So it used to, the law prior to this one, it was like a different time period. Now, if you dropped the baby off at the fire station, or EMS took it, or, the police station or something like that, it was 30 days. Now they're adding this 30-day requirement, and it used to be, from what I understand, like automatically you don't have to provide contact information to somebody who relinquishes their child at a hospital. You can just give the child to the child welfare agency, no questions asked, and that child goes up for adoption. So obviously this is going to be, adoption advocates are probably upset about this going into law, because, if you're adopting a child, and the parent, you're working out this adoption plan, from the time that child is dropped off to the time of 30 days, you're working on drafting up the paperwork, trying to get this child adopted, and you're an adoption advocate. You want to adopt this child. But then all of a sudden a parent comes into the picture, and 30 days later, they can come and take that child away from the adoptive parents who wanted that child so badly, but they were in this 30-day window. And now you've got the people who relinquished their child to begin with coming back into the picture. Not that I don't have sympathy for people who relinquished their child. Obviously, this is a poor decision. And I don't know what studies have been done about this, but I'm willing to bet most women who give up their child instantly want to come and get their child back. Most women will, say, oh, that was a bad decision, I'll come back. And I'm not against like maybe a 7-day period or something like that. But 30 days, that's pushing it a little too far, in my opinion. Once you make that decision, you've made that decision, and you have to live with the consequences of that decision. And I don't like that the legislature is removing the consequences of people's decision and just allowing people to not take accountability. Really, this is incentivizing people to not take accountability, and you can just drop your kid off for 30 days. What if you have like a a nice vacation planned, right? And you have a baby and you're like, oh man, my vacation is, right around the corner. I want to take my vacation. I want to go on a cruise, and it's a 14-day cruise. I'll just drop my kid off, but then I can contact the child welfare agency once I get back, right? That's what we're running into here, folks, with this long time period for you to come back and try to claim the child that you relinquished. You made the decision to do that. Hey, good morning. You are listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. We have a very special program today because I'm going through all of the laws that are taking effect today, January 1st, 2025. Happy New Year. New laws, new me, new year. So before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Senate Bill 3232. We talked about, of course, House Bill 4271, which allows anybody 17 years of age or older to donate blood without the permission or authorization of their parents. It used to be where donors 17 years of age had to obtain parental consent. You had to sign a permission slip, parents, but now you won't have to sign that, and the kids can go get their blood donated. And I understand there's equality in the law, or parity in the law, because if you're 12 years old in the state of Illinois, you can go get an abortion without parental consent. Okay, so and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that at 12 years old you can have a high risk medical procedure like an abortion without your parents' consent, and then you can't go give blood at the age of 17. That's kind of silly. It's a low risk medical procedure. Now, I think all of it should be gone. Like, nope. If you are a minor, if you're 17 years of age and under, you need to obtain parental consent always for any medical procedure. And I still think it's kind of funny. I think the school district still, with the Tylenol, you have to call mom and dad to ensure it's okay, or to make sure it's okay for the kid to take a Tylenol at school. The school nurse, has to call mom and dad and make sure that they get parental consent to give the kid a Tylenol. But no legislators voted no against that measure, House Bill 4271. And I found that kind of shocking that there were no Republicans who voted no. There were some Republicans who never voted one way or another. But I don't know. I just think it's kind of weird that you've got legislators saying, oh, it's okay to not tell mom and dad when you're 17 years old. And if you want to roll back the age of adult, then roll it back. If you want kids to go get abortions, if you think they're able to make that decision, then roll back the age for kids to become adults. Roll it back to the age of 12. But then you also have to roll the driver license thing. You have to roll back the cigarettes thing and the alcohol thing. And you have to let kids drink and do all that at the age of 12. Okay. So if you're going to do it, but do it right and be consistent. January 1st, Senate Bill 3232 takes effect. I was telling the streamers about this bill. This is a bill that became law, and it's law now, January 1st. Hospitals have to provide parents who relinquished a newborn infant with contact information of the child welfare agency that received custody of that relinquished child. So say I'm a mom and I just don't want my baby. I can drop it off at a fire station, police station, no questions asked, right? That's what the law is. It's relinquishing a child. And it goes into the child welfare agency, or it goes into the system. The baby goes into the system, and you relinquish your parental rights by doing that. Now, at hospitals, whereas at fire stations and police stations, it had this 30-day time frame where parents could come back and get the contact information of the agency, and therefore try to obtain their parental rights again. Okay. Now that was the same for that 30-day time frame of when you can come back and try to get the kid back and get the contact information of the child welfare agency. That was 30 days. Now for hospitals, it wasn't the 30 days, and they wanted to make that time frame longer for the hospitals, like it is with the firehouse or with fire stations and the police stations. Now the bill's sponsor, State Representative Ann Williams, Democrat from Chicago, took questions from Patrick Windhorst on the House floor, according to the Center Square, about the 30-day time frame parents have to get that agency contact information. Here's what Windhorst said. He says, what we've heard, and I'll allow you to address your concerns here, Anne, is that those adoption advocates believe that it is better for newborns to have the stability of staying with the adoptive parents, and increasing this time frame is going to impact that. So, if you're an adoptive parent, put on the shoes of an adopted parent, okay, a parent who wants to go through adoption and adopt a child. All of a sudden you have, this woman, she relinquished her child, dropped the baby off at the hospital, and you've got the baby at the hospital, and all of a sudden you're going through this adoption process, and all of a sudden this woman comes back into the picture and wants to take the baby and obtain or have her parental rights restored. That's kind of silly, because it definitely is a more stable for that newborn to be with the adoptive parents who actively are seeking to have a baby. And then, whereas you have this woman who might not want the baby, maybe she'll change her mind again 30 days after she gets the baby back, right? And really what this boils down to is the legislature is condoning this lack of accountability, or this lack of living with your decisions. And I can't stand that. You made the decision to relinquish your child, and I understand that you generally, as Williams put it, you generally don't abandon your infant unless you're in a crisis. So this window of time allows that crisis to be handled and that person to return. I think that that's the philosophy here of providing that window of time. I understand that. Yeah, well, people just don't give up their newborn babies if they're not in a period of crisis. But if you're in a period of crisis and you make the decision to relinquish your child, you have to live with the consequences of that. And I said this 30-day time frame kind of opens up the door for nefarious things to happen. Okay, you have a baby, newborn infant, and this infant's kind of an inconvenience to you for 30 days because, I want to go on a 14-day cruise. Okay, I'm going to relinquish my baby. I'm going to leave it at the hospital, but I'll come back and I'll get the contact information of the child welfare agency that this baby's at, and I'll obtain my parental rights after my 14-day cruise. Okay, now I'm being dramatic here, but it could happen, right? Or what's probably more likely to happen is that you have the baby, you go and you get into a drug treatment program, and then you come back, and then your baby's still there. Yeah, I mean, 30 days, maybe you want to go on a 30-day bender, do drugs as much as possible until, having to live with being a parent and having to be a parent. So it's really sad. Williams said the measure provides parity with how it's currently handled at fire stations and EMS stations and other places. So there's currently under law, there is that 30-day time frame for those places, but at hospitals, it sounds like there was no really time frame for the parents to come back. Automatically, those kids are put into this child welfare agency, and you're not obligated as a hospital to provide that child welfare agency contact information to the parent who relinquished that child. So that goes into effect January 1st, 2025, today. Also going into effect is Senate Bill 3207. According to the Center Square, the bill's sponsor in the House was former State Representative Randy Freese. He's a Republican. This is Senate Bill 3207. And what this does, this bill, Senate Bill 3207, it allows daycares. Now, it doesn't mandate daycares, but it allows daycares. It provides that daycares may operate 24 hours or longer, which I don't understand, or longer. There's only 24 hours a day, but they may provide care for a child for up to 12 hours if that parent or guardian of the child is employed in a position that requires regularly scheduled shifts, and a 10-hour period elapses between daycare visits. So I'm going to break down that law. What does that mean for you if you are a shift worker? Maybe you don't work your traditional 9 to 5. This could be good for you if you are into the daycare thing. But also, I see this as this is Republican-sponsored legislation, and I really don't like this. This is, condoning putting your kid in daycare for 12 hours at a time. I really don't like that. It's also condoning that, oh, it's okay to, put your kid into daycare 12 hours at a time as long as there's a 10-hour break. And then you can just keep your kid in daycare and the daycare can raise up your child. I don't really like that. I understand that people need child care, and I'm not oblivious to that, or I'm not naive to that. It's an expensive world we're living in. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thanks for the inflation. However, there's always something you can do to avoid putting your child into the hands of a complete stranger for 12 hours a day. I think that there's always something that you can do, and I don't think it's it's a proper position of our legislature to be condoning 12-hour daycare uh, for your child 12 hours at a time. That's insane to me. And we should be making it a more tax-friendly state, and we should be making it to where there doesn't have to be two parents working their tails off in this state. And we should stop robbing people of their tax money, or and taxing people and robbing people of their money, and keeping that money in their pockets so that they can do one income household, or, part-time job, whatever it is, to where somebody's at home taking care of the child. And maybe, 4 hours at daycare, or something like that, 12 hours at a time, opening up daycares for 24 hours. It feels like an incentive, or it feels like we're condoning putting your kid in daycare for hours at a time, half the day. That's 12 hours a day. That's a lot. All right, I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in. And I know I'm probably going to catch all kinds of flack for this, but I'm just going to be honest with you. And I'm not, I'm sure a lot of you are putting your kids in daycare, and I'm not judging you for that at all, because it's a tough world out there, and you got to have two incomes. Okay, we're living in a world where you have to have two incomes, and it's all by design. They've made it so impossible to live on one income because they don't want you at home with your kids. Okay, they don't want you to have a caretaker at home taking care of the kids. But I really, really don't like this 24-hour daycare, allowing the kids to come in. And I understand shift workers, and you need to accommodate shift workers and things like that, but that kind of takes out, again, the accountability. If you are entering a relationship with someone and you've decided to have a child with that someone, perhaps you should, I don't know, have the conversation of, hey, I work a 9 to 5, you work, the scheduled shift, or the odd hours, and somebody will always be here for the child, and if that's how you guys are going to do it, that's how you're going to do it. If you guys both work 9 to 5, you can put the child into daycare, but these 12-hour shifts that are longer and things like that, I think that we're condoning putting your kid into daycare for 12 hours at a time. As a legislative body, they condoned that with this law, and I'm against that. I don't think that that's good for kids. I don't think that's good for parents. And rather than crafting legislation like this, perhaps they should be cutting taxes and ensuring that everybody has their money in their pocket, so that way they can afford to not have two incomes, or can afford to not have two incomes, and to take care of the child at home. Plus it gets really expensive. If you really break down the numbers, and I tell people this all the time, it's really, if you break down the numbers, it's definitely possible for there to be one income. If you break it down, and if you really, really give it a go. I tell people all the time, pull your kids out of public school, homeschool them. I can't, I have to work. You're going to have to get crafty. You're going to have to get creative. Maybe start a small business that is at home. There's so much that you can do to avoid the government school system, the public school system. There's so much you can do to avoid having a stranger take your kid into daycare for 12 hours at a time, okay? And that is tough, but it's definitely going to involve communication between the two parents, and accountability, responsibility. And I don't like laws that are crafted that subvert this accountability and this responsibility that should be on the parents and the on the guardians of these children. There should be some sort of accountability there. You can't just say, oh, I work 12-hour shifts, and I work a 12-hour shift at night, and I'm just going to drop my kid off for 12 hours. And I mean, at that point, why'd you even have a child? Right? I mean, you're not even hanging out with the child, because then you're going to come back, you're going to sleep, you don't even see the baby, so you're not raising the baby. Why I can even really call it your baby if you're just going to drop it off at a 24-hour daycare? And all you need here is a 10-hour period in between daycare shifts. So you work a 12-hour shift, you come home, you sleep for 8 hours, you're with the kid for 2 hours, you get the kid ready, you drive the kid into daycare, and again another 12-hour shift starts. And I don't really like that we're condoning that sort of culture in Illinois with this legislation. So that's a bill. State Senator Jill Tracy said the goal of the bill is to obviously provide flexibility for shift workers. And maybe you have to marry somebody who is on the opposite of shift of you. Okay. And that can be really hard because you don't see your significant other. But you've got kids now, and you got to figure out how to provide childcare, and maybe you are deliberate with your decision, and you say, hey, you're going to work this shift, I'm going to work this shift, and we're going to both have, some time for childcare. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 News and Talk of Bloomington Normal City. Appreciate you tuning in. Before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this bill. It's Senate Bill 3207, according to the Center Square. The bill sponsor in the House was former State Representative Randy Freese. He's a Republican legislation here that I disagree with. So therefore, I'm not like this big old Republican and screwed the Democrats. I really don't agree with this. It's culturally condoning, like we're condoning this culture of putting your kid into daycare for 12 hours at a time with a 10-hour break. I mean, and I understand that you're trying to accommodate shift workers, and I understand that you're busy. But this I don't like. It provides that a daycare center may operate for 24 hours or longer, and may provide care to a child for up to 12 hours if that parent and guardian is employed in a position that requires regularly scheduled shifts, and a 10-hour period must be between those daycare visits. So kid can go to daycare for 12 hours. Mom or dad picks him up. Mom or dad goes to sleep for 8 hours. They're with the child a total of 2 hours, and then goes back to daycare for another 12 hours. I mean, this is, and we're condoning this. I really don't like it. And I understand the goal of the bill is to provide flexibility to shift workers. Let's provide flexibility to shift workers by, I don't know, cutting taxes, keeping money in people's pockets so that way they can afford to not live on two incomes, okay? Or to live off of one income rather than two incomes, and have somebody stay home and provide childcare, whether that's mom or dad. Or provide, money to where they don't have to work these crazy shifts, and they can maybe do like 12 or like a 4-hour daycare shift and drop the kid off for 4 hours, whereas they 12 hours. Like, it's so sad that we're condoning this and we're normalizing people being gone 12 hours a day, both parents being gone 12 hours a day, and putting their kid in daycare for 12 hours a day. It's sad that we're normalizing that with this legislation. But that's taking effect January 1st, 2025, that law. There's more laws taking effect. I want to get to this one. Property owners, they're going to see about a dozen laws go into effect that impact them. There's nearly 300 new laws taking effect today, January 1st, 2025, impacting them and their relationship with their tenants, the property owners. This law, House Bill 4768, will prohibit landlords from retaliating against a tenant. So this is a big one. The tenant, if they complain about their living conditions, and then if that tenant complains about their living conditions, and then the landlord retaliates against the tenant, and by retaliate, I mean, possibly raise rent the next year. That could be seen as retaliation. And now you've opened up this landlord to all kinds of frivolous lawsuits with this legislation. State Senator Andrew Chesney is a Republican. He said policies like this make affordable housing impossible for Illinoisans. What this bill does, this is what Andrew Chesney says on the floor, according to Senator Square. What this bill does is if somebody complains to the landlord and the landlord fixes it, it opens up the landlord up to litigation. Okay, you complain to your landlord about your washer being out. Okay, you go in, you fix your washer, and then 6 months later, the landlord raises the rent. It's not necessarily due to the washer going out, but the landlord, he raises the rent a little bit, probably to cover the cost of the washer that you broke. And they raise the rent a little bit. That can be seen as a retaliatory action. And now that landlord is open up to all kinds of litigation. And they could be open up to litigation if he or she doesn't renew the lease. Maybe you don't like the tenant and you say, yeah, we're not going to renew the lease this year with you. And they're going to say, oh, well, you're retaliating against me. And they're going to sue these landlords into oblivion, these tenants. Ultimately, who pays for this? It's we, the people. The people are paying for this. The people we represent here in this body, who are of modest means. So what ultimately happens, landlords know that this law is going into effect. They know that they're going to be slapped with frivolous lawsuits that they have to fight. And what ultimately is going to happen is preemptively, they're probably going to raise rents in order to combat these frivolous lawsuits that are bound to happen because of this legislation. This is all about bullying landlords and not raising rents. And this is all about bullying landlords into not, saying, hey, I don't want to renew my lease with you. You're not a great tenant. It's all about bullying landlords into submission. And who ultimately pays for it? It's us, because they're going to raise the rent in order to cover the costs of these frivolous lawsuits. That's what the landlords have to do. They're people too. They've got to live. And this is their means of income, renting out properties. So what they're going to do is raise the rents. State Representative Will Guzzardi, a Democrat from Chicago, carried the measure in the House and said 40 out of 50 states in the nation have similar protections against retaliatory evictions. And he said, so what we're talking about here is a tenant who gets their heat cut off in the winter. They complain about it to the landlord and the landlord does nothing. And the city, they have to complain to the city and the city comes out and then they get an eviction notice the next day. Okay. Because the city goes to the landlord, says, hey, you have to make sure you put the heat on. And look, I'm totally against slumlords, people who are terrible to their tenants. But here's the beauty of being a tenant and you have the purchasing power. Okay. If you don't like living somewhere, don't renew your lease. Okay. Go somewhere else, live somewhere else. You should have done your research on what property you were renting. Okay. And you should have made sure that this landlord was legit. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's all about this lack of accountability and, making it to where tenants don't have to live with their decision making. And if a landlord cannot show up or show that there is not a non-retaliatory reason, if they can't show that there's a non-retaliatory reason for taking action against the tenant, whether that's not renewing their lease or raising the rent a few months later after this, complaint that the tenant had, then the courts can award damages to the tenant who made that initial complaint, which is just so. State Representative Travis Weaver, who used to be a landlord, said there's a whole host of reasons why landlords terminate somebody's lease. And he said, and he called this law a bridge too far to hold landlords punitively liable in court where a tenant might not share the whole story. Okay, they might even view it as retaliatory, but it's not retaliatory. Okay, they might, have this conspiracy that it's retaliatory and that the landlord's raising the rent because they had asked the landlord to fix, the wash machine or the heat or something. But they're going to tell their side of the story, and we all know how the courts are probably going to view the white landlord, right? They're going to be like, oh, he's a person of privilege. He's a landlord. He's a property owner. This tenant is not a person of privilege, so therefore we're going to rule in his favor, in the tenant's favor. I see where this is going, and it's sad because ultimately who pays the price? It's people like you and me who have to go and rent places and will have to pay higher rents because landlords are dealing with this crap with frivolous lawsuits due to what the legislature is doing. And everybody's always asking, why is housing not affordable? Why is housing not affordable? It's because of bills like this. It's because of laws like this. The legislature is actively trying to, is actively keeping housing unaffordable. All right, State Representative Anna Moeller's House bill is going into effect. It's 4926. That's going to go in effect today. We're going to get to that story because it affects landlords, or that law, it affects landlords as well. We'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button. New year, new laws that you need to know about if you live in Illinois. Smash that like button. We're going to come back with this House Bill 4926. But really, I mean, come on. If you're a landlord, you understand that your tenant is probably going to say that it's retaliatory action. And really, what you're doing, it's really to silence or chill landlords and beat them into submission and have them never raise rent ever. And that's just not sustainable. It's not, if you bust your if you to me, if you bust up your wash machine, or if I have to continue to go in and fix things in your unit, then I'm going to have to raise your costs a little bit, because I got to cover what I just paid for, a brand new washer or a brand new heating system, right? I'm going to raise your rent a little bit. It's not retaliatory. It's me trying to make a living just like you. My living is just that I provide housing, and I provide, as a property owner, a place for you to live, and you pay me for that place to live. I mean, but it's so unfriendly to landlords, the legislation that comes out of here. We're going to get to another one. A lot of these are just really dumb. I remember in mobile park homes, so like landlords who have mobile park homes and tenants who live there, like in trailer parks, you as a landlord have to provide like a weather radio or like an emergency radio in the unit. And it's just like, well, hold on a second. Why don't we just leave that up to the tenant? If they want to, rather, like, everybody has cell phones these days, and I get it. If the cell phone doesn't work out in the boonies, a lot of these trailer parks are, located out in the boonies, then get yourself a damn weather radio. Why is that on me as the landlord? Get yourself a damn weather radio. Why is that on me? No, quite literally, that is what is going on in the state legislature, is that they are demanding landlords place weather radios in trailer parks. Love you. Talk to you again soon. Hey, good morning, folks. Sorry about that. I'm so sorry. I guess my mic was muted. I talked about the House Bill 4926 that goes into effect January 1st. What this does, it prohibits a landlord from charging an application screening fee if that tenant is using what's called a reusable tenant screening report. Now, you can provide that, and then the landlord doesn't or cannot, they are prohibited from charging you application fees. Now, a lot of tenants, or a lot of prospective tenants, what they will do, they will only put in like a few applications because most likely they're going to get in. Now, if you are a jackass, to just put it frankly, and you are putting in all these applications and you know that you're not going to be, and you have to put in multiple applications because you're not going to be accepted. That's usually what this is all about is, these are jackass tenants who are terrible tenants, and they have to put in multiple application fees because they know that they will not be accepted and the landlord will not enter into a lease agreement with them. So they put in multiple of these applications and they're charged multiple fees. Now, what the state legislator is trying to do, is they're trying to make it easier for those applicants, those jackass tenants, to put in as many applications as possible without being charged the fees. Now they can use this reusable tenant report. Now let me get to the screening report. It sucks because the reusable report might contain information that is no longer accurate. What do I mean by that? You generate this reusable tenant report. It's got your credit score on it. It's got your criminal background. Some of them can use criminal background and some of them don't have criminal background, which is another flaw with the reusable tenant screening report. But it has your eviction history on it and all kinds of things that would be deciding factors as to whether or not I want to enter into a rent agreement with you as a landlord. Okay, now you generate that report. It's a reusable report. You can use that to apply. I don't like this report. You can use that to apply, but here's the thing. You could get evicted. You could commit crimes. You could tank your credit all within the day after you generate that report. So that could change over time. That report and that information on that report can easily be changed over time. So what we're looking at here is just unfriendly legislation to landlords taking effect today, January 1st. House Bill 4206 mandates landlords allow tenants to make rental payments by delivering a paper check to the landlord if the landlord uses a third-party payment portal to collect rent and has a transactional fee. So you have to allow people to come bring you paper checks if you have a third-party rental. Now, it doesn't outlaw the rental portal, but you have to accept the checks. Now, the whole reason why they don't want to accept checks is because of the counterfeit. The whole reason why they have a payment portal is because, checks bounce, cash can be counterfeit, and they run into those problems. That's why they've implemented third-party portal. And then they have to pay for that third-party portal, okay? It's not for free. A lot of these, third-party payment portals, they charge you to process your transactions and to process your payments for you. So the fee is passed on to, of course, the tenant. Now, the state senator Rachel Ventura, who carried this measure in the spring, said there's a number of online electronic portals that don't require additional fees, such as Zelle. They don't issue fees or anything or additional fees. But here's the thing with Zelle. Not Zelle, but Venmo. She also mentioned Venmo. Venmo, you can send something and then it takes a couple of days to process, and you can kind of change your bank account information and that payment won't go through. Same with Zelle. You can, I think it's more instantaneous with Zelle, but a lot of people don't have Zelle. Zelle is only for certain banks like Chase. I think Ally uses it. There's only a few banks that use Zelle. And she says this is really to make sure landlords aren't increasing the rent by 2 to 3% by saying there's fees for using electronic payments, when in fact they aren't charged the 2 to 3% fees, and it's really just a way to increase rent. Give me a break. I mean, they have to process these payments. They have to pay people to go into these portals to process those payments, take that money out of the portal, put it into their bank account. So it's work that they have to put in, take it out of that portal, that third-party portal. And this is a conspiracy. Like, really, it's a conspiracy theory to think that they're raising the rent by $2 to $3, right? It's a convenience fee. I really find it hard to believe. And even if the landlords were doing that, $2, $3, come on, give me a break. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand it. And it's just silliness. If we didn't have counterfeit bills, if we didn't have people who were bouncing checks or anything like that, and a lot of the times, if you just talk to your landlord and you say, hey, I'm not going to use the third party portal, I'm just going to provide you checks, is that okay? A lot of times the landlords will do that. It's all about accountability, responsibility. It's up to the tenant to have that relationship with their landlord and to be honest with their landlord and say, I don't want to use the rental portal. Is that okay? 9 times out of 10, you're going to have the landlord say, of course, that's fine. Just give me the check, a few weeks prior to when the rent is actually due, and they come to an agreement. And they just have to, I hate how the legislature just has to butt their nose into places where it just doesn't belong. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you, and enjoy your new year.